Hi, friends. It's Michelle, Education Director with ASIS Massage Education, coming to you Friday afternoon here from Mesa, Arizona. So happy to see you here. Happy to have the people watching afterwards on the recordings. Today we're going in-house again with one of my coworkers. I've been working with now, we're going to have to remember how many years it is now. I think about almost 5 years together. We talked him into strong roped him into, I don't know, where told him into coming on today to talk about all things compliance, which might seem a little I don't know, kind of could be very deep kind of information, not really sure what it is, what does it matter. And so we're going to kind of break it down, what it means to have compliance standards in our post-secondary proprietary schooling, and particularly with our massage school here, and how there are a lot of pieces, a lot of moving pieces that are working at all times behind the scenes. People we report to, standards we have to uphold, reporting we have to do, spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets, all the things that we have to do in the background to keep massage school running, and making sure that we are meeting all the needs of the students and the laws and our accreditation standards and all that great stuff. So we're going to break it down for everyone a little bit here on our chat today, and kind of see how, what are all the pieces behind the scenes. So I'm going to introduce my friend here, Dr. Patrick Comstock. Hello,
Hi,
Dr.
Michelle.
Hi, it's so glad for you to come and join us today. And I need to give you a little confetti word. Yay! Here he is. That's my favorite thing to do. Now we can just put everything away. So yeah, so compliance. Sometimes oh, I don't want to be you kind of thing when I hear the word, and having to
Me
deal with
too.
it and everything. So yeah, you too. so let's get to the fun. Let's do some fun stuff first, and we'll make compliance fun, because it
Okay,
really can be when you
we
learn
can
about
do
what
that.
all the pieces are. They're actually kind of neat, of all how putting the puzzle pieces together, and working with multiple people and all that. So I kind of like that stuff. I'm one of those people, like all those pieces, organizing things. Not my house. Don't come to my house. I'm not organized there at all. But on the computer, I do a pretty good job of managing all that. But anyway, enough about me. So Dr. Comstock, tell us a little
Yes.
bit about yourself and how you kind of got to where you are. So, you were raised on a small farm in North Dakota. What's
Well,
No, you don't
well,
have to go that far back,
well,
but
yeah, let me just go back. I used my formal title today because I was figuring out that this is the first time I actually had to pay for a degree, going
oh,
through a program. In my youth,
uh-huh,
I attended the University of California, Irvine,
okay.
and I had what they call a Cal Grant A that covered my fees of $100 a quarter.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness. Oh my
and
gosh. Like, people in school right now with loans are just like about dying.
yeah, and when I got my master's degree, I was working for a small not-for-profit college in out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they paid for my master's. So it's the first time I actually had to sit down and pay for it.
Oh goodness. So
And,
you earned it.
yeah, so I earned it. So yeah, I probably just display it. But
Yeah.
to get back a little bit about me, I got into post-secondary education in 1977, and
Okay.
it was a small aeronautical school in Inglewood, California, right next to the airport. It was
Okay.
one of those things where if you were talking outside, you learned how to stop a conversation as the planes took off and landed. It was that was kind of interesting,
Right.
and after that, I ended up working for some of the largest school groups, although most of them aren't in the business anymore.
Oh,
But it said somewhere where I made connections. When I was working at National Education Corporation, I met their vice president of admissions. His name was Jack Larson.
okay.
Jack Larson liked me so much that when I left, went for another company, then was looking for another position. He's with another college group called Phillips Colleges.
Okay.
And then he hired me to be an area operations manager, which is really kind of interesting because At that time, I was living in Wisconsin, and I'd go to O'Hare, and then I would fly to these schools. I mean, I'd fly to Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh,
Uh,
fun.
you know, yeah, I was like 100,000 mile flyer at that time.
Wow.
So going through there, but uh, so at that point, then I went and I was dean of a school in Maryville, Indiana for 7 years, and at some point I noticed that Jack Larson was now having his own school group called Career Education Corporation, and I
Okay.
kind of jokingly, at one point he told me never to hire anybody that had the title doctor
Uh-huh.
in their name, and I saw they'd hired somebody named Doctor, so I was kidding him about that. And then at that point, we got into some discussions, and he
Mm-hmm.
offered me a campus president's position for a small interior design school called Harrington Institute of Design, right in
Oh,
downtown Chicago, right across from Grant Park on Michigan
oh,
Avenue,
wow.
in an old building with a fine arts building that had one of the last elevator operators
Oh my
in,
goodness.
Chicago. So
Yeah, with like the white gloves and the
yeah, and it was
yeah.
always one of those things. Whenever I came in, he might kick somebody off the elevator so I could get on, but but it was an interesting thing because it was a small school, about 275 students. Then we grew it
Mhm.
to over 1,000 students, and
Wow.
we moved to a new facility. We had 65,000 square feet of classroom space.
Oh, wow. Sounds heavenly.
Yeah, we had a library, an interior design library with 22,000 volumes, just books
Wow.
devoted to that. So, but
Yeah.
then at that point, and then there's a couple other stops in Florida. Well, I went back to California for a while
Mhm.
at Brooks College in Long Beach, and then it ended up in Florida. And one of my stops was Concord Career College, Career
Okay.
School. It was a nursing school, nursing allied health programs, and
Okay.
and at that time I had a director of admissions, and he gave me this new hire, whose name happened to be her name was Patty Urich, an older lady, not older
Mhm.
lady, but more mature.
Uh-huh.
And then one day walked in her really self-assured son named Shannon Yurkic. Uh, and that's the first time that I met Shannon, and that was in what 2010.
Oh, hearing the whole story here. So those of you
Yeah,
viewers who don't know, Shannon is
at
our
that
foster mom.
time, you know, uh, and at some point, I think I was interviewing for Finger Lakes School of Massage,
Mhm.
and but I think I lost out that position because he decided to go with a consultant named
Mm.
Shannon Yurkic. And at another point, I saw that position opened again, and yeah, Shannon hired me to be the director at Finger Lakes School of Massage in Mount
With no
Kisco.
hard feelings from you at all? You weren't
No,
did
no,
you
no,
did you
no
rib
hard
him a little bit?
feelings. It
Yeah.
was, it was, always, keep those people that keep in touch with them. You never know
Yeah.
what's going to happen,
Yeah.
and the other things, that as uh, Finger Lake School was winding down and closing, uh, Shannon offered me the position in compliance. Now, it, so I think I had enough background because of
Mhm.
the number of schools I'd been in and done self studies, and
Mhm.
my original background for like 11 years of my career was in financial aid.
Mhm.
Now, there's a brief time when I was working on my PhD that I worked for Home Depot,
Oh,
and
wow.
I became their in East Haven, and I actually became their garden center guru.
Oh, nice. You have a
Yeah,
little bit of a green thumb, do you?
people would come to me with plants. The other associates that I worked with, I'd be out. My main job was to keep the plants alive,
Yeah.
and but the other associates would always come and get me and say, "Look, can you help this person find this plant?" And
Yeah.
that's so that was a lot of what I did. My father would be proud of me because that's what he loved to do was
Oh.
to garden. And the other thing that you probably never knew about me is that I got my forklift driver's license. I could
Nice.
operate a forklift.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you should have seen me unloading trucks of mulch and
Yeah.
trucks with decorative brick and rock and things like that. It was interesting. It
How
was
fun. I spent 3 summers, working with the Erie Canal back in New York. That's where I'm originally from, and, doing the laborer job, and so I manhandled a lot of different equipment, but not the forklift. So I've
yeah,
been welder's assistant, landscaping assistant, I've done things with the mechanics, all kinds of things like that. So, yeah, the forklift, they never let me near that because apparently had have a license, and, what so,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
at that point, I practiced exceptional customer service. It
Mhm.
was fun. It was I'd have
Yeah.
people call in and ask for me
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
things like that. And
Mhm.
my favorite time was Christmas time.
Yeah, that's
The
a lot of
Christmas
fun.
trees, because out the Christmas trees, trimming them up and wrapping them up for people, and
Yeah.
you weren't supposed to
Oh,
accept
fun.
tips, but boy, I did do pretty well on the
Yeah.
tips.
Uh-oh, I hope no one from Home Depot's listening right now.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. And you're sounding a little too nostalgic about it, so don't be getting any ideas
no,
anytime
no, no,
soon
no.
about wrapping trees again.
This is where I belong, and this is
Yeah, yeah.
what I'm doing and enjoying, and working with you. I mean,
Mhm,
it's you think of the things that we did together. One with
mhm.
the changing of accreditors,
Yeah,
going
yeah,
from asset to Compta, and
yeah,
doing that self study
yeah.
was in
It's a lot. So let's talk about that a little bit. It's a good transition to so there's many agencies that we have to report to or work with, and one of them is our accreditor.
right.
And so can you explain a little bit why we would pick to be an accredited school, and is it something that everyone's required to do? And how we kind of decided to go with who we're with right now.
Right, right. One of the things for students to receive financial aid,
Hmm.
you have to be accredited.
Hmm.
I mean, if you take a look at the Finger Lakes School of Massage, for years and years in New York, it was approved by the state of New York, and
Hmm.
with that we could offer the program without any issues, but students would have to pay uh, cash. It was cash program. So
Hmm.
at that point, you make the decision, to find an accreditor, that you can work with, so
Hmm.
that you can open the door for students to receive, financial aid, so that Pell Grants and student loans, become available. So there are only certain agencies, and you have to go with an accreditor that's approved by the U.S. Department of Education. That's the other
Right.
caveat, and it is. I mean, if you ever go through an accreditation, when we were with Asset and then with Compta, anytime that we do anything with them, and they copy everybody. They copy everybody in the U.S. Department of Education. There's
Hmm.
probably 4 or 5 different points that they check in with to say that we're doing well. Then it's displayed on our program participation agreement, that in order for us to participate in these programs, and then on
Hmm.
our what we call our e-car, all our programs are listed. So
Hmm.
it goes through that whole process. But the important thing is to find an accreditor that you can work with. And in this
Hmm.
case, I think with Compta, the Commission on Massage Therapy Accreditation
Hmm.
it has been really excellent for us. I mean, it's we can have conversations with the director very easily. I mean, she
Mhm.
responds to us, and
Yeah.
and provides the guidance. So we take a look at that. So that's one component. But with Compta, we also have standards that we have to meet with them. It's
Yeah.
the with our well, placement, has to be at
Mhm.
65%, and our
Yeah.
graduation rate has to be at 60%. So,
Right.
we're well above that, but there's still those standards that we have to take a look at with that. And so we
Mhm.
submit an annual report to them for
Right.
them to look at, and then
Yeah.
And then they also look at our financials to make sure that we're a
Mhm.
financially sound organization, and that's
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up some good points there because I know sometimes people say, "Well, accreditation," and you brought up one of the main reasons a school can become accredited is to get into the financial aid aspect. You know, working with the U.S. government, and students can apply with their FAFSA ID and apply for grants, federal grants, and loans. But it's not just a magic. You click on the button, get that kind of okay to do it. With the accreditation, it also puts into motion these standards that in order for the school to keep that there, we have to keep producing. So even if our first application goes great, we still have to do the reporting and we still have to let the accreditors know, and therefore the government and people supplying the money to let people come to school here, that we are meeting those benchmarks. So I know 65% graduate not grad placement rate, right? Not
right.
graduation rate.
Right.
Yeah, placement rate, which is different than graduation rate, right? There's sometimes occasionally students finish the program because they've invested time in it and money and come out of it and like, maybe this isn't quite for me and I decided I'm going to do something else, or my
Right.
life changed and I moved or something along those lines. So there are differences there, that just because someone graduates doesn't necessarily mean they go into the field, but our rate is pretty high. If they graduate, they're going to get into that into a placement, into a job opportunity, or start self employment or something along those lines. So you mentioned too earlier about the self study. So for those who might have not picked up on that and known about it, so the accreditors also ask us, and not just the reporting, but we have to supply this, I don't know how many pages document. I'm going to say probably, with the supplemental materials and documents to add to it, to support it, 100, 200
It, it,
pages of.
yeah, it is intense. It is intense
Mhm,
because we have to go through what, as you know, as we throw upon you every aspect of the curriculum. You have to go through every
mhm,
course. You have to tell them exactly what's in the course, how it meets their standards.
mhm.
What they're looking for to see in the course.
Yeah.
We have to go through our instructors. Why are they qualified to teach the
Mhm.
course? What are their backgrounds?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
you know,
it goes so detailed that they're like, "Where's the question on the test that asks this question, that
right,
asks about this part of the body, or the reason we use this kind of stroke, or why we don't do this?" And they need to see the actual test question or the area in the assessment form where that's asked and where we test on it and how we prove that we are teaching it to our students. So, yeah, it's intense.
no, it is. I mean, and it's important that everybody knows that it's how much detail, that it's just not
Mhm,
something that you know, we paid them a bunch of money
mhm,
and they give us a certificate.
mhm.
We actually have to go out and we have to earn it. And
Yes.
and with that, people probably don't know that there is a cost to accreditation, that there are
Mhm.
fees that we pay, and that
Yeah.
it is an expensive process to go through.
Mhm. Yeah, not just, the fees, but the man hours. I mean, hours, every time we know there's an audit coming, or, with the big renewals, where we were so, I don't want to say lucky or fortunate because we worked our tails off, but we did our first stab at our CompTIA accreditation. We got the full 7 years,
Right.
the most that you can get. So, that any of the accreditors can award whatever their standards are, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, depends on what it is. Um, so it does take a lot to do that, but we're still having, and I'm always thinking that too, and making sure, okay, I know when we come up again, we're going to have to prove that we're training our instructors. We're doing regular staff meetings. We are meeting the requirements for how we're doing advertising. I mean, just down to that, we have to show proof of things that we put on social media or other kind of print ads that we do, to make sure that we're not bribing students to come to school, for
Right.
example, or offering something that isn't meeting the standards and things like that. So there's, I think, like every decision we make, everything we do, we have to ask those questions, and that's where you come in. That's your fun job, right?
Right. I mean, and that's part of it, to go through and make sure. And then a lot of times, I can be the intermediary between the school and the
Mhm.
accreditor, and posing those questions. What if we do this?
Mhm.
You know, where do we find this?
Yeah.
And for a while there, as we explore what if we could add a program,
Mhm.
what can we do? Who do you recommend?
Right.
But yeah, it is to make sure that
Mhm.
that everything is, and then once we start and we get the approval from CompTIA and we change, then we've got to go to the U.S. Department of Education,
Right.
tell them we've changed accreditors,
Mhm.
give them a reason why we changed the accreditors.
Mhm.
In this case, it was just we felt it's just a better match for us
Mhm.
and our mission as being a massage therapy school to be with a massage therapy accreditor, somebody that
Right.
understands us, understands the program,
Mhm.
what we're doing, and that, and so that's kind of
Right.
in a nutshell how we did that. But
Yeah, yeah, that was a great change, and seeing the two different accreditor, the old accreditor we used to be with, self study and what they were asking for, and then CompTIA self study and what they were asking for. It was just funny to see like assets this long of a list, and this much was curriculum, and then CompTIA's this much of a list, and like that much was curriculum,
right,
because they really dove down deep in order to see, to make sure all the pieces of the curriculum, but they also do the other parts of it too. So I know as at some point I might ask Dawn, who's the director over at CompTIA, to pop on maybe on these live streams one time and talk about accreditation and what makes CompTIA so great. And I'm really proud that we're the only CompTIA approved school in Arizona, CompTIA
right,
accredited school.
accredited,
There's a curriculum, I forgot how they endorsed curriculum. They do that as well,
right,
but they don't look at financials, protocols, training, any of the other stuff. They just look at the actual curriculum and the materials that support it. So it's a little bit of a different vibe. But as a full accreditors, we're the only state in Arizona that has that approval. So it's something that I'm very, very proud of here, and I think sets us apart a little bit. And yeah, it's really, really, really great to do that. So I know we do have the annual reporting we have to submit. And I know we just did that with our placement, and by placement, for those watching who are not sure what that is, that means after students graduate, they go out and get jobs, and we verify that they are working somewhere, whether it's for a larger chain or a chiropractor's office or self-employed and doing mobile massage. It doesn't matter where they're working as long as they are working. And we do have to meet that requirement of at least 65% of
right.
our student base, or 65% of the graduates. Do you know if that's the number or right?
It's 65% of the graduates,
Okay. Yeah.
that are placed, and then that's
Yeah.
and and sometimes, as you're well aware, and then you know, as our students go from state to state, that we have a lot of work with other states that we have to do, with transcripts and then
Hmm.
explaining how our program meets their program.
Oh, yes.
You know, twice for Ohio, I have had to testify at hearings to get some of our Finger Lakes School graduates,
Yeah.
you
Which
know,
it was, I was going to use Ohio as an example too. And it's so funny. So a little background information: New York requires 1,000 hours
right.
of um, training to get their license in New York. And I have my little handy dandy cheat sheet here. I'm just making up words, cheat charts.
Yeah,
Ohio has 750 that's required. So and us, Arizona requires 700. Our program's 800 here at ASIS. And I've had a situation too, and it sounds like you have as well, where they still didn't meet the standards to apply for the license in Ohio because they had a very interesting way breakdown of their classes.
right,
And I know for the student we were working with, I think it was like 10 hours of business or something that she didn't qualify for,
right,
something like, and maybe like 20 hours of anatomy or something. And so I know we could say, we talk about anatomy and all these classes, and we also have another 200 hours of classroom hours on top that they didn't even need. and they were still like, nope, it's got to meet these exact subjects, and that does become a challenge to
Yeah,
meet that.
it is. I mean, all of a sudden you're working with somebody from the Attorney General's office in the state of
Mhm.
Ohio,
Yeah.
explaining their program, and actually, I think you did help me guide me through that because we're able to use that their clinic experience where they have to sit down and
Right.
work and interview somebody and set
Yes.
up an appointment and get an appointment. That's all part of a business practice.
Right.
So but it is interesting, and I mean,
Mhm.
I think the last student I still helped, he still contacts me to tell me what he's doing, how he's doing,
Oh, that's so nice. I
so
like that.
that's another part of it, and
Yeah. Yeah. Do you miss that part of it? Because I know you were I don't know if everyone caught that, but you were the director of our sister school in the Finger Lakes in
right.
Mount Kisco. And so you had a lot of working pieces there and working with the instructors and the staff and all the students on a daily basis. How's life been changing with this change? Do you miss it at all? Or do you kind of like the quiet?
I do miss it. I do miss
Mhm.
the the students, and I do miss um,
Mhm.
yeah, being a body and getting a massage, but
Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah,
which
but, I people ask me all the time, they're like, "You work at a massage school, why aren't you getting massages all the time?" I'm like, "You said the exact word, I work at the massage school." Like, a lot of times I put myself on the schedule, I'm like, "Never mind, give it to someone else." I'm really trying to get a little bit better about that and saying, "Hey, take advantage of being in this place with 20 feet away, there's massage tables and
but
students willing to
yeah,
learn."
you do sometimes yeah, you do miss it. I think the working with students, working with staff, working with faculty. I mean, I'm still I guess we could throw a plug in for ACLS because I'm working with two of my instructors to get them, up so that they can be instructors with ACLS.
Yeah.
Uh, because that they were valuable people, people I liked and I loved, and that
Mhm.
I want to see them, keep growing in their profession. And I think they can be assets.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, and, they're gonna be trained up to teach the manual lymphatic drainage with
Yeah,
our other sister school, Academy Lymphatic Studies, so I'm looking forward to working with them on that level too, as I enjoyed the very brief time I was able to work with your staff over there in Mount Kisco, and I know our current instructor here in Mesa, Morgan, is a Mount Kisco grad,
right.
so he's got a special connection to them and that school, so it was, yeah, it was a nice little kind of circle back moment and have keeping them still
Yeah,
in the family a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the other aspect, and it's probably the elephant in the room that really that for us is working with the U.S. Department of Education
Mhm.
and you know the current administration's view of the for-profit schools.
Mhm.
Their idea that they keep calling us predatory,
Mhm.
and and kind of overlooking that you know the the schools that could have been considered predatory are gone. They're no longer in
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
That they've been gone for like I've really been listening. There's something going on now called negotiated rulemaking, where
Okay.
they need to reauthorize the higher education amendments, and so that they have these hearings and these they're more discussions about proposed regulations, and to hear somebody keep talking about ITT, and I keep thinking, but they went out of
They're
business in
right.
2016. They're no
Yeah.
longer here. They and any other school that you might have considered to be predatory, uh, it's gone.
Yeah. Can you
And
explain what that means a little bit? What would make them predatory for
they're
someone who doesn't know?
predatory in that they say they use aggressive sales techniques, that
Mhm.
they say things like, "Oh, your VA benefits will cover everything," and then the
Mhm.
student finds out that they don't. That um, they believe that at some point we take advantage of minority students,
Mm.
that we trick them into signing an enrollment agreement, and then the student finds out that all their training and everything else, it is worthless.
Mm.
It's, well, it's how they portray us.
Right.
Uh, they overlook the fact, that we're probably, as an industry, you know, put more people into healthcare than any group, than any industry around, and the other
Mhm.
things that we provide students, from truck driving to just about massage therapy, nursing. These are the things that we provide that they can't get at, maybe even at a community college,
Mhm.
or another institution.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we're looking at. But no, there are a lot of regulations that are specifically geared toward for-profit schools.
Mhm. Yeah, it's unfortunate because there are always the bad seeds that may kind of make the rules for everybody, and when they're practicing that, and I don't know, I can't speak for every school or anything, but I know we've had students in the past where they come in and say, "Well, my friend went to this other school and they were told that they were able to get all this and get a
Yeah.
stipend every month and be have their living expenses and all these things." And we're like, the only way we could do that is if we are going to get you in some kind of high interest loan of some kind. We can't kick back money for you to have just like living expense. I mean, we could talk a whole financial aid aspect of it, but
Well,
um yeah, we're
it is, because they look at right now, one of the proposed regulations is that, and this is under something called gainful employment, which can go into a little bit more detail, but
Mhm.
that your student debt can't be more than 8% of your income.
Mhm.
So, in other words, if a student took out every dollar that they could have for student loans, they'd far exceed that, and
Yeah.
you know, unless they're making $100,000 a year,
Mhm.
it becomes that type of problem. So those are the type of
Mhm.
things that we have to look at,
Right.
and help students with, controlling their debt,
Mhm.
and 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 that, and
Yeah, because we don't want them to come out of the field and now come out into the field and now they can't pay their bills because yeah, the loans don't start till
Well,
afterwards.
and that's the whole thing too. I mean, I remember the standard used to always be saying, "Well, look, you take out a loan, you only have to pay $60 a month." But,
Mhm.
when you start to take out more and more loans, all of a sudden you're getting loans that are almost a house payment.
Mhm.
You can get up in the area of $800 and $900 a month, depending,
Right.
if you take out $100,000 worth of loans. So
Yeah.
those are the things, that we have to kind of watch and guide us, so that
Mhm.
we don't put our students into a bad position,
Mhm.
and we don't put ourselves into a position
Right.
of
Yeah,
doing that.
so you did mention, like, with this administration, so every time there's administration change, we have to be on alert of what that administration's views are of post-secondary education and, colleges and such, and I know just recently there was and I'm not the best, like, government relations type of conversationalist, but in talking with some of the perks or more of the easing of the burden for students, they were talking about giving an extra amount to students, but only going to public schools. Is that how it was? And then we by we I mean as people in the private post secondary board sector um, made some stink about like, well, then you're excluding people who are maybe going to trade schools and such that are in in the private sector
Mm.
from getting
Yeah,
that money.
and it was under the Build Back Better program,
Mhm.
that's going through, and they're trying to get to Congress, where there's increasing the maximum Pell by $500
Okay.
for everybody except students attending proprietary schools.
Mhm.
So, that in itself, is kind of discriminatory,
Mhm.
for our students. If you feel that we are hurting students by burdening them with loans. Well, let's have a little bit more grant. It's not a,
Right.
and 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 if you take a look at other programs that came out during the COVID pandemic, uh, it's a higher education emergency relief, uh, or HERF as it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the first uh, round of HERF allowed money for our students
Mm-hmm.
and for the institution. But after that, rounds 2 and 3 would give money for both our students and the institution to help it through the crisis. But they began to exclude the for-profit schools in that
Mm-hmm.
area,
Yeah.
and and that it becomes so more complicated as it goes through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, it, it- you know, money from the government always comes with strings attached.
Yeah.
And in our case, for her funds, we had to do reporting,
Mm-hmm.
quarterly reporting. We had to update our website with quarterly reporting.
Mm-hmm.
We had to do an annual report to the
Mm-hmm.
department that goes into much more detail than the program ever was supposed to have.
Yeah.
And and then there's also we have to have a special audit, you know, where
Mm-hmm.
the reviewers that came in and looked to make sure that we weren't, you know, rewarding ourselves with the funds,
Right.
that the
Yeah.
funds did go to the students, that they
Yeah.
went to those areas that we said that
Mm-hmm.
we needed them to go to. So,
Yeah.
those are the types of things, that we deal with. I mean, there's, uh, you know, we always have to have an annual audit by some outside
Mm-hmm.
auditors again to show
Yeah.
that we're spending our money that appropriately, that it's
Mm-hmm.
going to that they look at the financial aid to make sure that you know uh, that they're following all regulations.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you look at you know a refund calculation that must have been designed by somebody that like calculus.
I
Uh,
know. I know that form just gives me headaches looking at it. Like I don't
yeah,
know.
and then we think you know, we find something and they said, oh, well, there's this one exception,
Yes, I know. Yeah. My
that,
favorite part of all of this is we have our student catalog. So that most all of the places that oversee us, the agencies that oversee us, they all need a copy of that. And all of them contradict the other one about certain places in it. So there's always this exception thing. It's like, no, you have to have it worded this way. And then we do that. And then the next place says, no, you shouldn't have worded it that way. You need to word it this way. And like, oh my goodness, it's like so hard to keep track of all of that and what
no,
needs to happen.
no, it is. I mean, I was looking at, you know, again, going through the negotiated rulemaking that's going through and the people that are on there. I mean, there must be 20 different groups represented. I mean, there's, we have our representative for the for-profit, and there's a representative for the not-for-profits, and there's a
Mhm.
representative for the publics, and then there's a representative for the legal aid, and then there's a for financial aid, and then there's another representative for any various other groups. So there must be like 20 people on this,
Yeah.
and 19 of them are against us. As
Yeah.
far as going through, I mean, it goes into uh, you sit there and you begin to see people, and when people go, I know there's one person. I go, oh, here comes a Mr. Know-it-all again. Uh, uh, but they kind of said things like you can have a finding that repeats,
Mhm.
but to what level is a finding? Is it maybe you had five finding and this time you have one?
Mhm.
And this one person goes, well, then you should cut them off from all financial aid, and people are going, oh,
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah, it's tough because there's human error. There's things that happen out of our control, and but that's where it makes your job really important to be able to keep your finger on that pulse with all of it. So what are some of the things that you have to do? Do you have to attend different legislative types of meetings, or do you get on
You
different
know,
mailing lists?
yeah, there's things, that one organization is called C-SPIN,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of March, I'll go to Washington D.C. for what they call their Hill Day conference,
Mm-hmm.
where they get more information about what's happening with the legislation, and you know meet people that are part of the legislative branch. These are the people making the rules. So
Right.
we meet with them. We belong to uh, the association of CECU, Career
Mm-hmm.
Education Colleges and Universities.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we'll attend their convention coming up
Party
in
in
May.
Vegas!
Yes,
Woo!
yeah, we get to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Actually, I worked with one company before, and I swear to God, we always stayed at the Bellagio,
Mhm.
and every 6 months it seems like we were in Las Vegas. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's but that they gave you updates on
Yeah, that's
w-
the
w-
their mailing list. They're really on top of it. Yeah, I love seeing all the updates they give because they are looking out for our interests. So that's really
so
good to have association like that.
and Fame, which is another one that does our database system.
Hmm.
You know, that they're very much so. So listening to them and as they articulate changes that are going on, and then what we must what we must do. I mean,
Right.
and then we have to follow up on things. There's certain things that are there are that done throughout the year. You
Hmm.
know, one is iPads reporting.
Hmm.
That's done a lot at the school level. That you're involved with, and Kristen's involved with, and Laura's involved with, all that where that they want to know how many people you have, how many people started, how many people finished, how do you spend
Hmm.
your money? Which portion of your money is spent on instructors, and
Yeah.
that reporting that we're required to do.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you never know. There's that other, I think they just did the pass the National Transparency Act, which is going to
Oh.
require us to do more reporting on,
Oh,
who
yay.
or not comes, and it's all the same thing, but
Yeah.
everybody they can't seem to go to one source to find it.
Yeah.
So we have all these other different sources
Yeah.
that we have to do.
But luckily, we're in a good place for all of this because one of the things you're keeping us up to date on all of that and letting us know when things are coming. But also, I've seen a huge, uh, teamwork effort with everybody, making sure that they're keeping all their ends um, kind of up to date so that really when those times come, we're really just pulling the information, not really having to gather it as much. Um, so that's the efficiency, I think, has been pretty good, but it's like, oh, another
Well,
one. Didn't we just have an audit? Didn't we just have a reporting thing? And it's like, I don't, I wanted to talk to you more about this too. And when Shannon suggested it, shout out to Shannon, I know he's watching,
yeah,
or he'll watch the recording. I hear people say a lot like, oh, you should open a massage school, or I want to open a massage school. And they think, because they want to help students and, help create things that they want to teach the students. And I think that's great. And I want to say that part of running a school is like this little bit, and then all this other stuff. Of course, if you don't get accredited and stuff, it's
yeah, it
different.
it
But
it it, it is. I mean, under the Obama administration, we started with gainful employment.
mhm,
About students, their debt to earnings ratio, and taking a look at that thing, and reporting on students' progress, who
mhm,
graduated, who didn't,
mhm.
things like that. And then during the Trump administration, they took that all away. Now during the Biden administration, that's all coming back,
Yeah.
and
Bing,
and
bong,
the
bing, bong.
changes that are occurring, under the Obama administration into gainful employment, if you're found to not meeting the standards, you could appeal and demonstrate, what's there. And under
Mhm.
this new gainful employment, they're not going to have that appeal process,
Mm.
and in if you can't demonstrate that your program is students are gainfully employed, then they can take that program away, and then
Mm.
uh,
Which I could see some merit to it, but if it's a kind of doesn't really give any wiggle room for trying to make it better, then sometimes that's a little challenging.
well,
But
it is. I mean,
Mhm.
in say you're a large organization and you have a school, and you say, well, maybe I shouldn't have that program in this area because it's not doing well.
Mhm.
But honestly, if it's not doing well in that area, it could cause your other schools to also lose their eligibility for the
Yeah.
program. So it it's just and then there's this idea that for-profit schools are just trying to, as they say, game the system. That
Mhm.
one of the things that we have to demonstrate is that we don't not all the money that we receive comes from financial aid. That there are other sources that go
Mhm.
into a school.
Right.
So we're allowed to have 90% of our funding come in from federal financial aid, and then 10% has to come from sources outside. And now they're looking at limiting that to what now before it was just federal financial aid that you could count.
Mhm.
Now they're saying any federal funds that you receive, if a student receives VA funding, that used to
Okay.
be it counted in the 10%, but now you got to count it in the 90%. So
Mm.
there's all those things, that
Right.
uh, that are changes that you have to look at and you have to stay on top of,
Yeah.
and again, it's our student loan default rate we have to watch so that
Mhm.
you know
Yeah, everything's always changing. You mentioned VA, and that reminded me how they allowed for some online learning, and then they said, up until this day, and we're all like, what are we gonna do? And then
yeah.
Saved by the Bell at the end. So we were watching that, right? We had to keep on top of it and make sure what's going on. And that's a whole other story there too. But basically, we were going to have to figure out how to maneuver our hybrid program for our VA students, and so now with people realizing that limiting our VA students, and not just ours, I mean the countries and the schools, the post-secondary proprietary schools who are not attached to a community college, that they discovered they were doing a disservice by not allowing them to participate in a hybrid type program. So,
Well,
um,
if you take a look at the whole COVID thing, it probably took us
mhm.
kicking and screaming into the 21st century,
Yeah.
and caused us to take a look at uh, education and delivery. You know,
Hmm.
somebody said that Aristotle could come back and you plop him down into a situation in any college, and he'd actually say, "Well, this is a classroom. It hasn't changed since my time." Where
Hmm.
somebody's standing
Hmm.
up in front, and there's all
Yeah.
these students sitting there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now we're taking a look at what was changing. I mean, when I did my PhD program, it was all online, and it was
Hmm. Yeah.
actually I think I taught myself, but anyway,
Yeah,
but
that's what kind of sometimes what people feel sometimes, right?
no,
That's it.
it was a lot of research
Mhm.
and which I loved. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, eh,
Yeah.
going through it, but it was uh, uh, online. You know, if you could see me the first time trying to find out how to do the cover page that goes with the assignment
Yeah.
and figuring out how that works, that was a thrill. And all of a sudden, PowerPoint. I've never done a PowerPoint
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
What's that? But these are all skills that students need. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and it's it's the future. It's
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my
yeah.
flying car. I'm still waiting for that part, but I think we're getting there with
Yeah,
ourselves.
I think everything from the Jetsons was supposed to have occurred by
I
now.
know, I know. I know where my Rosie is. I really need one of those. Just to pick up after myself. So
Yeah,
I probably most of the people watching are probably gonna be like, I do not know what you're talking about. We're dating ourselves, Patrick. That's okay.
yeah. I'm afraid so. It's
Which is totally all right. So yeah, I wanted to ask you some of those fun hot seat questions at the end
okay.
here. I wanted to make sure that I thanked you for coming on and breaking down some of the components of the things that we're doing behind the scenes, and mostly what you're responsible for, and helping us out to keep on our toes and dot our I's and cross our T's and everything like that. So I know it's not always glamorous being behind the scenes there. So I'm glad we got to put the spotlight on you for a little bit
Yeah,
and
yeah.
learn
Coming
about your Home Depot time. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm loving that. So all
As
right,
I come to
you
you
ready?
from live from New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh yes, we forgot to mention. Yep.
Yeah.
Away out in Connecticut. It's starting to warm up and thaw out, I think, right? A little bit,
Yeah, it's
sort of.
54, 55 degrees
Hey, that's
today,
balmy.
and
I remember my New York days when it started to hit those temperatures and people are like, "Woo, it's shorts weather."
yeah, yeah, it's
After you're doing like negative whatever, you're like 50s are great.
yeah, I think
You know,
last week we were in the teens, but
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure it'll still go a little bit. We're only February, I'm not even gonna say. I remember one
yeah,
year
there's still
when it snowed on in Mother's Day, so I'm
yeah,
not gonna yeah, I know better.
yeah, it's the whole thing, you don't plan anything till after Mother's Day.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, let's find out a little bit more about Patrick here. So, what talent or superpower would you most like to have?
Um, I've listened to all your I've been your biggest fan.
I know, I forgot to mention that. Like,
And I've listened to almost every live stream that you've done, and
mhm.
listen to people, what they can, you know, maybe I'd like some of the skills of Spider-Man. I'd like to
Okay.
be able to take and shoot, a web out and swing from spot
Yeah.
to spot, and you know,
Yeah, it's
kind
kind
of,
of he's got strength, right? Too. He got like some kind of extra human power too, not just the swinging, right? He's got
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah.
So kind of that would do it,
Okay.
move around and
Yeah, okay. I like it. Very cool. So if you weren't doing this wonderful compliance job and didn't happen to cross paths with a one Mr. Shannon S. Yurkic, what do you think you'd be most likely doing right now? Or what would be another career option or something you could see
Well,
yourself doing?
my real career option growing up was to play shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Nice.
That's really, uh,
When did it go astray? You're 10 years
when I
old
found out
or
I couldn't hit.
there is that little complication. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was kind of
Yeah.
the key. That was always, I think, if I could have done it something else, I think I'd have loved to have been a sports writer.
Oh, nice.
That would have been an area
Yeah.
I'd like to have gone into.
Yeah, I have actually a friend who I've known. I say friend, but I've known him since he was like 3 years old. He's now a sports writer for MLB. So he does, yeah, he was working with some of the LA teams. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, if money and circumstances were not an issue, where would you most like to live?
I would probably like to live either uh, probably Laguna Beach, California
Mm,
would be you know the place to live.
okay.
I think there's still Warren Buffett has a house they bought many years ago for like 68,000. It probably sells for 12 million now. But
Yeah, you know.
I kind of either there or Santa Barbara are
Oh
the two
yeah.
areas that mostly if I had the money and
Hmm.
the ability, those were the
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
I grew up in Southern California,
Hmm.
and you know, I, I, I guess I truly do miss it.
Yeah. Need to go back home. I know that feeling. One day I'll have a little townhouse in New York City somewhere or something. I never
Yeah.
lived in New York City, but I always wanted. Let's see. What is your most treasured possession?
I was thinking that just before, we get on. I have a picture in my office
Hmm.
of my mother when she was about, yeah, well, she was only 21 when she had me, but she was probably about 20 years old, little
Hmm.
two-piece outfit,
Uh-huh.
sitting up in the mountains, looking over her shoulder.
Oh, that's
So,
nice.
that it's a picture kind of discovered after she passed away. We're going finding pictures and things that she
Uh-huh.
kept, and we didn't realize that she kept every picture of proms and homecoming dances, that
Oh,
she had all that stuff. But
what a nice gift.
yeah, it is. So it sits, sits across from me right now, and it's
Oh, I love
I
that.
look at that when
Yeah, I feel that connection to her.
yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna have to get my mom to start pulling out some pictures for we have a very morbid thing about death. So I'll be like, so when you die, can you have some things ready for me? I can ask her that. So yeah. um, all right. So the last piece of wisdom we want to hear from Dr. Comstock. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
What would I was kind of think, uh, one, you're never going to be 6 feet tall. Uh, People don't know that I'm not very tall in stature. uh, I think if I think I would probably tell myself, do a better job of managing yourself and your funds, that things can disappear, and that if I had to go back, and
Mm-hmm.
I probably at that age I was much better at that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing lasts forever, and
Yeah, that's
and
true.
plan ahead.
Yes, that is very, very good. Yeah, when you're young, it's like woohoo. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
there
built up.
there was a time when it was just it flowed.
Oh. Oh, the young days. We should have known better, but yes.
Yeah, but just,
Yeah.
but here we are,
Yes.
and
Yeah, we're here. We're who we are because of where we are.
yeah,
So,
and whatever's happened, we've learned to adjust
mhm,
and make things go.
I think so too. I think that is very heartful, and I will get you some hearts for that. He's a really great way to end on a positive note here, and want to thank you again for agreeing to do this. I know sometimes it's not always easy, and to take time away from the day and help break things down. So, and I think everyone else out there watching and watching the replay later, make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel to get updates when we're going to go live most Fridays, 1 p.m. Arizona time. So we will see everybody next time. Thanks, Patrick. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you being
Michelle.
on.